Hello, and welcome to the second part of our job interview preparedness module. My name is Jeff, and welcome back. In the first module, we talked about the different stages of the hiring process in call centers. I also discussed with you the proper layout and parts of the resume. Another important lesson from the previous module was the threefold analysis of our competencies: the personal, professional, and business traits. Some of us may not have all of these traits, and others do at varying levels, but it's important that we know our competencies, because doing so will help us answer job interview questions confidently. If we study our competencies, including our work experience, I'm sure that we can increase our chances of getting that job we are applying for. Now, in the modules, I'm going to provide you tips on how to answer the top 10 common job interview questions. Some of us show up for the interview not even prepared for these questions, and so we end up struggling with our words and consequently come off a little bit unsure and not confident. Now, that's the last thing that we want to happen. We want to create a positive and professional impression of ourselves instead, and convince the interviewer that we are the right candidate for the position. Now, before I start our discussion, I would like to go back to the fluency module, which taught us the 4 techniques to speaking fluently. You can request a copy of the 2-part fluency module by sending me an email at ccfbuddy@yahoo.com. Now, in this module, I'm going to let me first set the fundamental concepts, okay, in order to be a successful applicant every time you answer the questions. One is that you have to know yourself, including your competencies. You have to review the qualifications of the job that you're applying for, and make sure that you apply the fluency techniques I taught you every time you answer the question. Lastly, I may not be able to tackle all the job interview questions out there, but if you bear in mind that each question gives you an opportunity to sell yourself, then I believe you would go a long way. But we will understand this concept more with each interview question that we discuss. Now, with all that taken care of, I would like to start with the first question. Almost all interviews start with, "How are you?" When you're asked this question, do not just say, "I'm okay," or "I'm fine," or worse, "I'm nervous." First of all, those responses do not say anything positive they don't say anything positive at all about your personality and whether you're the right candidate or not. So, second, bear in mind that by answering this question well, you can set the mood of the interview, break the ice, establish a friendly atmosphere, and overall set a positive impression. This question, therefore, is very important. It's crucial. A good response, therefore, is, I'm good, thank you. It's my first time to be here, and I've been looking forward to seeing you in person," right? Or you can talk about anything, the weather, the traffic condition on your way to the office, or anything that happened to you while on your way to the interview. Okay? The second question is, "Tell me about yourself." Now, this question again is designed to help you sell yourself, so you have to be very careful as to the information you provide in your response. The interviewer will let you talk about yourself and assess how you view yourself. Now, one common mistake is talking about things that are not related to the job, like where you grew up, your likes and dislikes, whether you have pets, etc. Again, these have nothing to do with the position that you're applying for. Now, a good format to follow in answering this question, "Tell me about yourself," is the personal, professional, business traits model that we discussed in the first module. And I'm going to show you some really good examples, and please take time reading them by hitting pause. The third question we'd like to prepare for is, what are your strengths? And I'd like to begin by listing down for you some examples of strengths. Then I would like to differentiate strengths from the traits listed in the model I showed to you in the previous module. Traits like friendly, hardworking, and passionate are not strengths. Okay, they're just traits. Strengths are those qualities that achieve results. They are active and are goal specific in the work environment. So when you're asked, what are your strengths, you can pick at the most, you can pick at least 3 items on the list depending on the position that you're applying for. For instance, when I was applying as a language trainer at IBM, I pointed out communication skills, planning skills, and presentational skills. Okay, because these are the 3 most relevant skills needed for a language trainer position. So how do we answer the question, what are your strengths? When answering this question, you need to refer to the job description or requirements of the job. If, for instance, the job requires the ability to handle irate customer situations effectively and empathize with customers, then you can point out your customer service skills. Again, it helps that before applying, you have studied the qualifications and requirements of the post you're applying for. Now, if you do not have relevant experience, say for instance applying for a CSR post when you do not have call center background, you can use your hobbies and interests to establish relevance. In this example, the applicant, I'm going to show you an example of how the applicant does this by citing attention to detail as a strength. And then note how the response uses a non-call center scenario to point out the particular strength. Okay, are we doing good so far? The fourth question is, what are your weaknesses? This is a tricky question to answer because the interviewer is assessing your personal knowledge and insight rather than the actual weakness. However, it's also important to be careful with the weakness that you point out in your response. Being able to confidently point out one's weakness is a sign of maturity and wisdom, and surely the interviewer can at least appreciate that. So to answer the question, follow the formula. I tend to blank, so I blank, and then follow it up with an anecdote or a short story. So what you do is you pick one weakness. You should only pick one weakness and quickly turn it around by relating the steps you've taken to improve. Okay, here's a good example. You can hit pause. Now, be careful with what weakness you're going to point out. Do not say, I get irritated very easily, or I cannot handle stress, or I don't know much about sales. Although these are weaknesses, these will never get you the job because they betray your qualifications or your lack thereof. So instead, there are those so-called positive weaknesses like, I tend to be over-enthusiastic over the job, I tend to overwork, or I tend to overplan. You get the picture? The fifth question is, why should we hire you? Now, to prepare your response to this question, you have to review the job requirements. Again, before showing up for the interview, go over the qualifications of the position that you're applying for, and then refer to your skills and relevant experience. Mention your skills and future goals, and do not forget to be straightforward and confident in your delivery. For example, if the job requires at least 2 years of college and basic knowledge of computer operations, the ability to handle irate situations effectively. You can say, well, I meet the requirements of this position and I'm confident that I can make a significant contribution to the company. And then you support that main point by pointing out your personal traits, your work experience, your strengths, and lastly, your future goals. Let's check out one good example. The sixth question should be easy for you. Tell me about your job as blank. To answer this question in the context of the BPO industry, let me first classify work experience into three. One is pre-employment, any type of work that doesn't involve the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the SSS, and all the formalities of an actual work experience. Examples of pre-employment work experience are serving as library assistant, as a volunteer for a one-time event, as a choir leader, as an on-the-job trainee, and so on and so forth. Second type is non-call center jobs. If you came from a different industry, you belong to this category. And since the focus of this module is those people hoping to land a call center job, then the third type is call center experience. I'm making the distinction among the three to illustrate how we answer the question, tell me about your job as blank, in the context of these differences. Now, in the fluency module, I discussed how important details are, that they should be specific, adequate, and relevant. And we apply those same rules in this case. Your details should include the following: the actual job title, inclusive dates of employment, the name of the company you worked with, then the itemized description of your job, and lastly, personal anecdotes and successes. This is to give the interviewer a clear picture of your work experience. Now, before we go to the sample responses, I would like to go back to our discussion on the resume, particularly on the section that deals with your professional work experience. So I'm just going to flash that section again here. Now let's check out this response of somebody who doesn't have a call center experience and who only has a pre-employment experience. And then this is the response of somebody from a different industry. Now let's move on to the seventh question. Why did you apply for this job? Some applicants would go, I'm looking for greener pastures. I've heard that this company pays more, and so on and so forth. Let me just go over the invalid reasons for applying to make sure you avoid saying such things. Okay? And here are the valid, more attractive reasons for applying. Note that the suggested responses never mention money, and that is because money is a weak motivator. The last thing the company representative or the interviewer will do is hire people who are motivated by money. Instead, you have to paint a picture of yourself as someone who is motivated by success in the workplace and someone who is driven to contribute the company's growth. Okay? Question number 8 is, how do you think your previous work is relevant to this position? What you're going to do first is review the tasks involved in your previous position. So go back to your resume and review the section describing your previous work in itemized format. Then identify the skills that you have developed from your previous job. Remember our sample responses earlier? In the sample response of an applicant from another industry, the applicant pointed out that his previous work taught him the ability to pay attention to details and tolerate stress. Let me just flash it one more time here. Number 3, relate the skills with the requirements of the job. Let's look at some examples. This one is a good example coming from an entry-level applicant. Number 9, why do you want to work with us? Now, this is another common question, and you don't want to tell the interviewer that you don't know anything about the company. And that doesn't create a good impression. So before showing up for the interview, you have to research about the company, their track record, how they fit in the industry, their culture, their values, their clients, the awards they have garnered in the past, how many sites or centers they have, everything. Okay. The last question is, why did you leave your previous job? Now, there are a lot of reasons why we leave our previous company, and most of them include resignation, you got terminated, personal problems at home or with the boss, and just plainly a decision to shift careers. Now, when you point out your reasons, never say anything bad about the company, your supervisors, and your colleagues. Why? Because as a professional, you are supposed to still be able to work with people you do not like and get results even if you have personal issues with your boss or colleagues. Also, avoid stating your salary as a prime motivator for change, as in saying, I decided to leave because I was given a better offer, a higher salary or something. So let's review how to answer the question, why did you leave your previous employer? Number one is relate how you worked hard in your last position and now you want to use your skills and experience to benefit the company you're applying at. So you can also say, I really had a great time working at people support, or I loved my job at Convergys because ... But now I decided to leave because I'd like to use everything that I have learned to benefit this company and be part of your organization's growth. Something like that. I'm going to flash sample responses under 3 common reasons, and you can go over them by hitting the pause button. Okay, they're kind of long. That's it. We have just tackled answering the top 10 common job interview questions. And before we wrap up, here's a bonus question for all of you. How much is your salary expectation? How much do you expect to get from this job monthly? This is more likely going to be asked during the initial interview, but will be negotiated in the final interview. So what you need to say when asked this question during the initial interview is this, okay? I'm sorry because I wasn't expecting we'd talk about this at this point. I came here to really know more about the position and how I qualify for the job and about the company. Okay, and then you pause. You wait for the interviewer to respond, and normally the interviewer would ask, well, can you give me a ballpark figure, an estimate? And this is the time when you can say, well, based on my research, this position usually pays around 13,000 to 15,000 basic plus allowance. Okay? Something like that. So that that response really gives you, again, you give an impression that you are not after money and you are after results and compatibility. Okay? Now let's go to the other job interview questions. I'm going to just flash them in one slide, and these are not so common, but they could be asked in anyone in your job interviews, so might as well prepare for them. Okay? And then we have closing the interview. When the company representative wraps up, she or he will always say, do you have any questions? So you have to say yes. You have to ask questions, and we will talk about those questions later. Sell yourself for the very last time after the interviewer says, thank you, that's all for now. And then express your enthusiasm for the position. Fourth, find out the next step in the hiring process. And lastly, thank the interviewer. Now, these are the questions you can ask the interviewer when you are asked, do you have any questions? Okay, you have to ask the following questions. So, we have come to the end of the module. I hope you find it interesting and helpful. Please do share it with your friends and your family and with acquaintances. because according to research, only 3 people out of 100 applicants pass the hiring process in call centers. And the BPO industry is such a big industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we ought to take advantage of it. And we can have more people to work in call centers if they only know how to come to the interview prepared. Now, I just provide you the tips. Before I go, I would like to share a passage in the Bible taken from Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 to 17. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. God bless, guys, and take care. Thank you for watching.